In 2006, Japan hosted the FIBA World Championship and finished dead last. No wins, zero momentum. Back then, Japan was known for baseball, anime, and definitely not basketball. Fast forward to 2023, Japan stunned the world by qualifying for the Paris Olympics outright, even beating European teams like Finland. Their domestic league is booming. Arenas are packed, and their players are headed to the NBA. All from a country smaller than California, with barely any players over 6'6". So what happened? How did a nation once written off as irrelevant in global basketball became Asia's biggest surprise? This is the story of how Japan quietly built one of the fastest rising basketball programs in the world, and it might just change the global basketball landscape forever. To understand why Japan's basketball rise is so shocking, you need to understand what sports meant to Japan in the first place. For over a century, baseball was everything. Imported from the US in the 1870s, it quickly became Japan's national obsession. By the time basketball arrived in 1908, baseball had already taken roots in schools, corporations, and media. Basketball, it was barely noticed. Even as the game grew globally, Japan remained stuck in the margins. There was no real pro league, no international stars, no major infrastructure to develop players. Basketball in Japan lived in the shadows, often seen more as a high school club activity than a serious pathway to fame or fortune. The top high school tournament, known as the Winter Cup, was popular locally, but the pipeline stopped there. There were no elite academies, no serious investment in coaching, and when kids turned pro, they played in a semi-corporate league where teams were owned by companies like Toyota and Toshiba. There were two competing leagues, the NBL and BJ League, constantly fighting over players, rules, and control. The result? Disorganization, low attendance, and international irrelevance. Meanwhile, Asia's basketball spotlight belonged to China and the Philippines. China had Yao Ming, the Philippines had passion, Japan had confusion. Even their national team reflected that. From 1970 to 2014, Japan never finished higher than 8th in a FIBA Asia Championship. They didn't just lose, they lacked identity. Too small to compete with China, too slow to outrun Korea, and far behind countries like Iran and Lebanon. By the early 2010s, it was clear. Japan wasn't just bad at basketball, it wasn't even trying to be good. But that would all change. Not because Japan suddenly discovered talent, but because they were forced to rebuild from the ground up. And the catalyst? A public humiliation that would shake Japanese basketball to its core. By 2014, Japan's basketball system had hit rock bottom. Two rival pro leagues, the BJ League and the NBL, were tearing the sport apart from the inside. They operated under different rules. Teams poached players from each other. The competition was inconsistent, the fan base confused, and the product uninspiring. It was chaos, and the international community noticed. That year, FIBA, the sport's global governing body, took an unprecedented step. They suspended Japan from all international competition.
The governing body of the sport has suspended the Japan Basketball Association.
It wasn't just embarrassing, it was a wake-up call. FIBA's message was blunt. Unify your leagues, reform your structure, or miss the Olympics entirely. This suspension hit at the worst possible time. Japan was set to host the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, and now their men's basketball team was in danger of not being allowed to participate on their own home soil. The pressure was massive, and for once, the fractured pieces of Japanese basketball had no choice but to come together. In 2015, Japan announced the creation of a brand new league. Not a merger, a total reset. It would be called the B League. And from day one, it was designed to be different. This wasn't just about games. It was about marketing, infrastructure, and building a legitimate sports culture around basketball. They brought in international advisors. They created 3 divisions with promotion and relegation to keep competition fierce. They signed TV deals, pushed digital content, and focused on attracting young fans, something Japanese basketball had never truly done. But the most important move? They started investing in the future. Youth training programs, grassroots development, coaching certifications. They realized you can't build a national team at the top. You have to start at the bottom. The B League wasn't perfect, but it was stable, unified, and ambitious. And within a few years, its impact would ripple beyond Japan's borders. Because just as the league found its footing, a 6'8" teenager from Toyama was about to change everything. In 2019, a name echoed through both NBA draft nights and every sports news outlet in Japan: Rui Hachimura. Selected 9th overall by the Washington Wizards, the first ever Japanese player drafted in the NBA lottery. This wasn't just a milestone, it was a cultural earthquake. Until then, Japanese basketball had been faceless on the world stage. Now it had a hero. Tall, athletic, mixed race, and unafraid of the spotlight. Ryu wasn't just good. He was marketable, born to a Japanese mother and a Beninese father. His background challenged old school norms about what it meant to look Japanese. And his journey, from a small town in Toyama to Gonzaga to the NBA, captured imaginations across the country. Almost overnight, Ryu became a symbol of possibility. Basketball wasn't just a side sport anymore, it was something to dream about. Merchandise sold out, NBA broadcast deals expanded, and youth basketball enrollment, especially among elementary and middle schoolers, surged. Rui's impact extended far beyond the court. He made the sport cool. Kids didn't just want to play basketball, they wanted to play like him. And that kind of cultural pull, it's something that no federation, no league, no amount of money can manufacture. But the timing was perfect. Because Rui arrived just as the B League was gaining traction, meaning kids who were inspired by him actually had somewhere to play, someone to coach them, and a league to look up to. The pipeline was finally open, and Rui was the face of it. But he wasn't the only one. While Rui was climbing the ranks in the NCAA, another player was quietly grinding his way into the NBA through an entirely different path. A path built not on star power, but on grit. And he would prove that Japanese basketball had depth, not just one headline. If you're enjoying this story, consider subscribing. We break down the global game, one country, one transformation, one overlooked story at a time. Now, let's talk about the player who changed everything. Yuki Kawamura. While Rui Hachimura was making waves in the NBA, a different kind of star was rising inside of Japan. Yuki Kawamura. Listed as just 5'7", he didn't look like the future of Japanese basketball, but don't let the height fool you. Kawamura is fast, fearless, and brilliantly skilled. The kind of guard who can break a full court press by himself and hit a step-back three before the defense even sets. He came up entirely through Japan's domestic system. No US college route, no NBA hype, just pure development inside the B League pipeline. And that's exactly why he matters. Kawamura is living proof that Japan's system works. He's not an outlier like Rui, he's a product, built from a new model. Heavy on fundamentals, fast-paced offensive structure, and relentless shooting. In 2023, he became the youngest player in B League history to record 1,000 assists, leading the Yokohama B Corsairs to one of their best seasons. He was also a standout on the national team, running the offense, picking apart bigger, slower defenses, and proving that size isn't everything. In fact, speed and skill have become Japan's trademark. While other countries chase height and strength, Japan is doubling down on what it does best: quick decision-making, off-ball movement, outside shooting, and surgical execution. Kawamura doesn't dominate with dunks, he controls the game like a chess master. And the beauty of it? There's more where that came from. Japan is now developing dozens of players in that mold, undersized, overlooked, but fundamentally elite. And when these players come together, the results are shocking. Because in 2023, Japan didn't just look competitive, they looked dangerous. For years, Japan had been rebuilding. New league, new stars, new philosophy. But in the eyes of the world, they were still underdogs until the 2023 FIBA World Cup. This was the moment everything came together. On home soil, in front of packed arenas with Olympic qualification on the line. The expectations were low. Their group included Germany and Australia, two top 10 teams in the world. No one expected Japan to get out alive. But something clicked, not with talent, with belief. In their second game, Japan faced Finland, led by NBA All-Star Lauri Markkanen. By the third quarter, they were down by 18. Game over, right? Wrong. Yuki Kawamura took over. He diced up Finland's defense, feeding fast breaks and hitting clutch shots. Keisei Tominaga, nicknamed the Japanese Steph Curry, started raining threes from every angle. The crowd erupted, and somehow they came back. Japan 98, Finland 88. Their first World Cup win in 17 years, but they weren't done. Next came Cape Verde, then Venezuela, with direct Olympic qualification on the line. Once again, Japan was undersized. Once again, they were outmatched physically. And once again, they played faster, smarter, and harder. They beat Venezuela 86-77, securing an automatic berth to the 2024 Paris Olympics. No host advantage, no wild card. They earned it, and they did it with a team full of B-League players. Most under 6'6", most unknown internationally, all brought into the same system. Quick pace, relentless ball movement, shoot with confidence. The coach behind it all? Tom Hovase, an American who previously led Japan's women's team to Olympic silver. He brought the same strategy to the men's squad. Push the pace, prioritize shooting, move without the ball, be fearless. And it worked. Because in Tokyo, Japan didn't just win. They captured the imagination of a country. Merchandise sold out, TV ratings spiked, and for the first time, Japanese basketball felt like a cultural event. But this wasn't the peak. It was just the reveal, because now the world was finally paying attention. So how did Japan suddenly get good at basketball? The truth is, it wasn't sudden at all. It took a crisis, a complete teardown, and a decade of rebuilding from the ground up. It took merging warring leagues, investing in kids, designing a system built not on size or star power, but on skill, speed, and identity. And now that identity is paying off. The B-League is thriving. Young stars like Yuki Kawamura, Keisei Tominaga, and Yuta Kawashima are proving that Japan can produce not just one Rui Hachimura, but a pipeline of elite talent. Their national team doesn't rely on NBA imports. It runs on chemistry, movement, purpose. It's a team that plays beautiful modern basketball, and most importantly, plays it together. Because Japan may never have a 7-footer like Yao Ming, or the raw athleticism of the US. But they have something else, a system, a style, and a generation of players who grew up believing that basketball wasn't just possible in Japan, it could be great. What started as a suspension turned into a revolution. And if you're not paying attention to Japanese basketball yet, you will be soon.